Hello and welcome back to another episode of LMScast. My name is Chris Badgett from LifterLMS, and I'm joined today by a special guest, Phil Derksen from WP Simple Pay. We're similar people in that we run WordPress-based software companies, and we both care a lot about e-commerce and helping other people sell their products and their courses and the things that they build. I'm really excited to have a conversation with Phil today and introduce him to you all out there. But first, I just want to welcome you and thank you for coming on the show, Phil.
Oh, thanks, Chris, for having me. Appreciate it.
So Phil is the creator of WP Simple Pay. I would encourage everyone to check that out. You can go to wpsimplepay.com. He has a demo there. Once you find the demo, you can see what it does. And there's all these different ways to use it. But Phil, just to kind of kick us off here, what is WP Simple Pay? What does it do? What problems does it solve? What's it all about?
Yeah, sure. It's a plugin for WordPress, much like Lifter, your plugin, and so it's for accepting credit card payments on your WordPress site, specifically using a payment gateway called Stripe. So it's a way to accept. You can accept one-time payments, recurring payments, subscriptions. Like monthly payments, and it's a way to do it pretty quickly without, if you don't need a like full shopping cart solution or a full membership site or anything like that. It's more of a way to get up and running pretty quickly without having to write a lot of code or anything like that either.
And one of the ways I like to describe WP Simple Pay is it's really simple. When you look at it, you put these buttons on your site, basically a buy now button. This thing pops up, and people can enter their credit card or additional information, and there's all these different ways you can use it. And then that just basically facilitates the credit card transaction through Stripe. And Stripe, I personally love because it, unlike PayPal, it's just a much better user experience. I like PayPal, but there's a lot of things that aren't so great about it. For example, sometimes you have to, when you check out, you often have to leave where you are, go to PayPal. You have to have a PayPal account. When it's time to move money as the store owner or the product seller into your account, you have to log into PayPal and tell it to give you the money.
Yeah.
Stripe, all that's much cleaner, more automated. People stay on your website. They have a smooth checkout experience. The Stripe transfers the money into your bank account without you having to ask them to do that. It takes about 3% or 2.9 or whatever percent of the transaction. Those are some of the things I like about Stripe. What do you like about Stripe, Phil?
Yeah, those are all good. Yeah, it keeps you on your. It keeps the person who's checking out, who's paying on your site. Even the way we implemented it, at least, uh, it throws up a checkout overlay, so they're not even leaving the page, the checkout page there, or even where the button is located on. Yeah, and like you said, the behind the scenes stuff, connecting your bank account, and those daily transfers it does on its own. It's just, and you can sign when you sign up, as when you create your Stripe account, if you haven't done that yet, it's really fast. Just entering a little bit of your bank account information and you're hooked up right away. I also like, just as a developer, working with their API. It's much cleaner, much better documented, and easy to work with from that standpoint. So whether myself creating a plugin or a WordPress developer creating a custom solution, they're usually going to find that a lot easier than a lot of the other solutions out there, like maybe older merchants and PayPal as well. So just kind of that combination of things for the developer, but also for the end user that's creating a Stripe account.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I've just found Stripe easy to work with. There's one of the things that you should check out if you're listening to this or seeing this video. Um, is just the internationalization of it all. Stripe is available in something like 30 countries. It's not available everywhere. If you just Google like what countries can I use Stripe in, I want to be really clear on how this works, where it just depends on what country you as the store owner is in, like where your bank account is. That's what matters in terms of what country it works in. Other than that, anybody anywhere in the world on the internet with a credit card can use your checkout. It's just a question of when you're setting up your Stripe, which countries is your bank in. That's what that's all about. And
Yeah.
they're continuously adding new countries to that. And I imagine that's just going to continue to grow. So it's always a good idea to check on that.
Yeah, there's always some countries that are in beta or preview, but they're all, like you said, they're always adding more countries. They currently, I was just looking it up when you're talking, they support having a Stripe account in 25 countries right now, but over 135 currencies that you can accept payments in, and then of course different languages and stuff as well. Yeah, so it's always growing, like you said.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing, to accept money in 100 and whatever many currencies. That's one of the beauties of the internet and online payment systems, is that you can truly have a global business. Before we get into how to use something like WP Simple Pay for different use cases, why did you decide to create this product?
Well, it wasn't my first product or even my first WordPress plugin. Um, some of the other attempts at products and plugins that I had before this, um, they I guess it was the target customers. So I found that selling to customers that either are price sensitive, or if it's a product that it's hard to associate, the value that they're getting out of it, is just, it's a harder sell. So it wasn't, it was just, well, let me give you an example. So previous plugin of mine that did pretty well, it was a freemium plugin, just like my Stripe plugin is now, was a Pinterest sharing plugin. Okay, so it was a social sharing plugin. And although a lot of people use them, a lot of people maybe even, pay for premium solutions, plugins, or otherwise to have social features on their sites. I think they couldn't. It's hard for them to say, well, having this social sharing plugin on my site makes me X amount of dollars per month. So because of that, it was, I think it's more of a difficult sell. Whereas on an e-commerce plugin, or selling courses or whatever, it's like you say, well, with this plugin, it's helping me sell X per month, and so that association with the value there it's more clear.
Yeah, I agree with that point. If you're selling courses or membership sites, selling business to business, like we're talking about, where there's like a clear, value proposition, is always, in many ways, I think a lot easier. Although there are people out there that have a gift for more B2C, business to consumer or customer. But that's things like, if you're going to design an app for the App Store, like a game, Angry Birds or something, I'm just not that kind of guy. I'm more of a guy who's going to build tools for other entrepreneurs. So I think you have to decide, if you're building any product, do you want to do business with other businesses, or are you truly going after the end customer?
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with going after consumers, the B2C. It's just you're probably going to have to price it a lot lower and sell a lot more volume. And that's why Angry Birds is a success, even though it cost $1 in the original one or whatever it was. It's because they sold so many. So it can be done, and it is done. Might take longer to get there. But the business to business, you definitely can price your product or service higher because of that value that business is getting from it.
Yeah, and speaking of that, like if you look at Stripe by itself, they take, I think, 2.9 or 3% of the transaction. It's completely free to set up. They're just going to take that amount out of your, each transaction that rolls through your site. Um, but it's hard to debate that value. Like, you're going to take 3%, which is a small percentage, for allowing me to sell whatever I have on my website to the entire world. I mean, it just makes sense. I would gladly, give Stripe 3% of my money. And, just in terms of online businesses that I have run in the past and I run now, whenever I have a utility software tool that helps facilitate a transaction, it's almost a non-issue how much it costs, or if it has a renewal annual subscription license or whatever. It's just part of doing business. It's part of my stack, and it's a pretty easy sell. So I see why I like that point about why you chose to get into WP Simple Pay. Well, let's elaborate a little bit on some of the different options you can do with it. Like I mentioned, you guys should head on over to wpsimplepay.com and check out the demo. There's all these, there's a menu of different demos you can check out, and then these buttons you can click with the overlays. What's like a really simple WP Simple Pay checkout, and what's a more elaborate one, or could you describe some of the options people have?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the basic, like one time, like you just want to sell something, it's a one-time purchase. It's not a recurring subscription that you're signing up. Yeah, I mean, you can put whatever content you want on the page, but you can really just have a button at the very least. Okay, so you sell something for $20, and then the Stripe checkout overlay. Okay, so this is so Stripe is mainly behind the scenes. They're approving credit cards, detecting fraud, all that kind of stuff behind the scenes. It's not something your customer is seeing, but they do offer a Stripe checkout overlay, which is a big part of Simple Pay. And so on that overlay, you can customize a few different things. You can require, for instance, you can require billing and shipping address or not, and you can require zip or postal code or not. Those kind of things. Just a few different things. You can add a logo and certain things. So that's the real kind of bare bones kind of configuration. And then from there, if you want to collect a little bit more information, you can add some custom fields to it. So if you want to collect, and these will, right now in the current state of Simple Pay, these will reside on the page that's launching that checkout overlay. Again, it's easier if you just go through the demos, but what these will do is record some extra information, like if you want phone numbers and options of what they're buying and so on and so forth. But let me back up a little bit too on how this plugin is different than other Stripe plugins or add-ons. The information, so one of the reasons I said I love Stripe is that they're signing up for an account is pretty fast and it's easy. And even though they target developers, I would say many of our customers of Simple Pay's customers are non-developers, and I would recommend it to non-developers. It's easy to navigate through and look at your payment details and subscription details and so on. So what Simple Pay does is any extra information that it collects, like from these custom fields and such, it stores in the Stripe payment metadata. And metadata is a technical term for basically extra fields in there. So this is all in the Stripe dashboard. And this is Simple Pay is also a lightweight Stripe plugin in the sense that it's not storing all this extra data in your WordPress site, which is not a bad thing, but it's keeping it lightweight. Whereas if you set up WooCommerce or Easy Digital Downloads or a lot of these other shopping cart solutions, they're storing all the data in WordPress. So it's just a different way that we do, because Stripe provides all that on their back end, if that makes sense. So
That does make sense. So Stripe is really the back end, and you're providing the bridge in the simplest way possible for people to sell stuff, get the information to Stripe, and have a clean, easy checkout with lots of options.
right, right. So should I keep going through some of the different
Yeah,
options here?
yeah. Let's
Okay.
hear some more.
So there's also Stripe also provides coupon code um, mechanism in their backend, and so what you can do is you set up the coupon codes on your Stripe dashboard, and then you connect them. You can connect them with your Simple Pay checkout form, and then it'll read what you've set up in Stripe. Again, this is not stored in WordPress.
And there's also, I just want to add a benefit to that. When when you're not storing a bunch of sensitive e-commerce information, that's one of the great things about Stripe is they're the ones who are holding the credit card. It's not like you're
Mm-hmm.
responsible for somebody's credit card. Stripe is, and I think you can see the last four digits or whatever if you ever need to like verify
Mm-hmm.
something with somebody on the phone. But all that security is handled by Stripe.
Yeah, exactly. You're a lot less is offloaded from your site, so you don't have to worry about that. An SSL certificate, so having HTTPS is required. Like most sites, you want to have that anyway, going forward. But that is about all they require. Um, yeah. So and they let's see here. So past those is when, well, like you said, we can you can change the you can configure the language that you want to use, and which country and which currency you're using, and so on and so forth. There's a demo using French Euro combination on the site. So and then whatever fields are not translated by by in WordPress itself, Stripe has its own. You're setting something and sending it off to Stripe, so they're also displaying the correct currency and language and all that kind of stuff. So from there, we have a, if you want to add tax rates to your checkout, you can. And then a big thing we have that's pretty popular is custom amount. So pay what you want, donate. It's user entered amount, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people use it for donations, but some people also use it for, say, they have a bunch of different client projects, and they tell somebody, hey, simply go to this page, enter in what you owe me, and
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. Or
So it's like
so
their own your own personal like Western Union money transfer.
right, but like, yeah, like super simple though. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't take much time, and but a lot of people do use it for donations, which can be configured again to be one time or recurring. So they can even check a box, hey, make this a monthly donation, that sort of thing. And yeah, and then basically from there, it ties into Stripe's subscriptions. They have plans and subscriptions, so basically they're recurring logic. So, and then that's a kind of a whole nother realm, but we pretty much tie in with all the things they offer currently. So, you can just subscribe somebody to a plan that you set up. So and in our documentation stuff, there's how to set up all these plans in Stripe. But again, I think you'll find, even if you're not a developer or technical, that it's pretty easy to do in the Stripe dashboard. So, um, and then you can set up, if let's say you have you want to list a few options in a drop down or radio buttons or a pricing table of different subscription plans. You can do that and let your customer pick which plan they want to subscribe to. You can also combine uh, a lot of these things. So you can select a plan, add a few fields, like get some more information from them, and then you can also say have them enter an amount they want. So if it's a donation kind of scenario or something like that, they can say, hey, I want to pay $30 a month for this. You can have them, they can enter that in. a lot of donation uh, sites you'll see they'll have pre-selected plans, and then but let the user
Override it.
and enter what they want as well. So, and then for a few, these are kind of more a little bit smaller cases, but over time we had our customers ask for these. So, and actually, I think this might apply to folks selling courses, like certain types of courses. So you might want to charge an upfront fee that's higher than the regular monthly plan. So we call it the setup fee. So let's say you want to charge $25 a month, but to get started it's 100, and you can add that into the first payment, and then you can also say this is only this is only a 6-month payment, and then you're done. Like you want to give lifetime access after 6 months or something like that. Installment plans, payment plans. There's also that ability to basically have it stop charging that monthly plan automatically. And of course, it could be monthly, it could be biweekly, weekly, biannually. I mean, you have all these options as well. So I think that's, I mean, unless there's some other specific features you want to talk about, that's kind of the overall, what we provide right now. And we have a lot on our roadmap, of course, and Stripe themselves keeps coming out with a lot of things we want to tie into. But yeah, that's what we got so far.
Yeah, that's a lot of options, a lot of different pricing models and access models that you could come up with. Well, let's transition into a conversation around a couple of use cases for course builders and membership site builders.
Mm-hmm.
There's two main scenarios I'd love to have a conversation on. One of them is validating or validation. Another word for that is piloting a course concept. And the other is on cross-selling and upselling from your courses and memberships to other products like events or physical products and other things. So LifterLMS has a e-commerce system. It also has a Stripe connection. It has a PayPal connection. You can integrate it with WooCommerce. But what we talk about a lot on this podcast is about not getting into LMS software or tools and building a fancy learning platform until you have validated your idea with a pilot course where you run a small group of people, potentially through even just live training calls like you can do with Skype or Zoom or whatever, to kind of take them through your course material manually and make sure they're getting results and that you can teach it well and you're getting feedback on how well your instruction is working. But basically, to offer that, I like to say to people, if you're really going to pilot your course concept or validate it or build a minimum viable product before going head over heels into membership sites and learning management system builds and stuff like that, is to, all you need is like a Skype account and PayPal account, or in this case, with just a one-page website, a WordPress install with one page, you can present an offer of what it is you aim to teach or what your membership is about. And you can just use WP Simple Pay, put a buy now button on there. You could put a name your price button on there. You could set up a subscription. You could collect additional information, add custom fields like what's your t-shirt size or whatever to, hook them up with some swag or whatever. But really with like a $10 domain name, a web hosting account in WP Simple Pay, and maybe throw in a WordPress page builder or something to create like a fancy sales page or whatever, or use a template that already exists. You can go from idea to website with a course or membership for sale like in a day, like very quickly.
Oh yeah, and then setting at SSL these days too. I mean, you can just get have most hosts, reputable hosts have the free SSL through Let's Encrypt or whatever, and so you can start with that as well.
Yeah. And that another name for this is like your minimum viable product. Before you
Right.
build out this fancy thing, set up a page, put a buy now button on it, and see if anybody will pay you. And what a great way to do that with WP Simple Pay. What have you seen? Like, I'm just curious in your experience, just generally, like, are there certain industries or use cases where you see people doing MVPs with WP Simple Pay?
Yeah, definitely. As you were talking, I brought up a lot of some of our customers and some colleagues and friends I know personally. Not necessarily, well, in all sorts of way, like MVPs in all sorts of ways. So one that comes to mind, and it's probably because it's the people I hang around the most, was uh, people that created, or so basically SaaS products or software as a service. So they have, well, okay, I'll give you an example. So audienceops.com, it's a content writing service by my friend Brian Castle.
And just
And
a side note here, Brian Castle has been a guest on this podcast. So just search
oh,
for his name, and you can find that episode with Brian. Sorry to
nice.
interrupt. Go ahead.
No, Brian's a great guy. Smart dude. And he has used Simple Pay. I think he still uses it for certain cases, but basically when he was getting started with audience ops and he was talking to his first, handful of customers, he eventually I'm either assuming he has he or he's built some sort of custom Stripe integration for his software at this point. But when he got started, he was just trying to, get those first few customers and basically handhold them through certain, getting them set up and everything else. And so the same thing, he didn't need to build out a whole automatic, connection to Stripe and connect it to his software. He just needed to grab that payment and, maybe do a few things manually at first once the payment processed. But, that's definitely a way to hold off on committing to building out a huge piece of software, from the beginning before you validate the idea itself. So that's a couple other people I know have used Simple Pay for that. I mean, that is kind of our sweet spot in a lot of ways. Like you just said, we have people graduate from our plugin to other solutions, and that's just fine. WooCommerce, people selling physical products is another one. They might have a couple couple products, but they don't know if it's really something they want to continue with, or if it's going to make them be a viable business. So sell a few and kind of manually process it. You don't need some elaborate inventory system or anything yet, or shopping cart system. Then you start with that. So yeah, same thing with the membership course. That's a great way to use it without having to spend a lot of money on a developer or yourself setting a lot of stuff up that you may not need at the moment. But you definitely can. So the cool thing with Stripe too is that you already have this account set up. Maybe there's a few tweaks and things you've done in your Stripe dashboard, like you can toggle a little fraud protection, or how strict you want to be on certain things and that sort of thing. And so if you already have that set up, if you need to move to a Stripe add on to an LMS or membership site or e-commerce site, then you can do that later on.
Yeah, that's a lot of good stuff there. Well, let's talk about the other use case, which is cross-selling or upselling.
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of times people end up with a shopping cart when they don't really need one. I think if you think about it, a lot of e-commerce activity, people are buying one thing at a time, even if multiple things are for sale. For many use cases, just a one product at a time purchase, or perhaps the website is only really offering one thing. They don't necessarily need a full-on shopping cart for a non shopping cart experience. So for an online course or membership site, a lot of you out there listening are teachers or experts in certain areas, and you may have courses and memberships, but you may also have other things. You may offer some on the side consulting. You may have a book that you want to sell. You may have a live event that you want to sell tickets to. But you don't need to like build a complex shopping cart. You could just use something like create a page on your site and add these other offers and opportunities you have. You could put a donate to me page, buy me a beer, whatever, on your website, and use WP Simple Pay to deliver that donation system that you need, or to sell your event tickets or sell your book. Like Phil mentioned, you can collect an address and other information too. You can just cross sell and upsell other stuff that's not really related to your course and membership. And you can test ideas out like, hey, I wonder if my students might also be interested in this kind of workbook that I make around my material. Maybe I'll sell that separately, or see if any of them are interested in private consulting with me. You could do that. So I don't know what kind of do you have any other ideas of other cross sell, upselling, single product things that people use WP Simple Pay for?
Yeah, no, you listed off a few for sure. Like any kind of digital assets beside, you said books and stuff, but if like us, if you're just getting started, a few years ago, if you're just getting started selling, some kind of software plugin, or maybe it's a desktop app that you created, or Photoshop template, or if you're or proposal template. I mean, if what you're teaching or selling has some kind of digital things that you want to give, or as an extra, you know $10 or $20 or 50, what it is, whatever it is, you could package those up and just email them off, or email links to those manually for a while until that gains some traction. Conferences and meetups are good. Just if there is some elaborate and good event and ticketing solutions for WordPress and for not for WordPress that are great. But if you're going to just try a small meetup or conference for the first time, and you have a couple options, maybe you're giving away, or maybe you're selling a T-shirt for if you pay a little bit more, whatever it is, you could definitely use it for that, and not create an elaborate event site.
I just want to highlight that point. If there's one takeaway from this episode, it's all about, like, you don't have to overdo it. There's a lot of people with technology where they buy the Cadillac and they bring it home, and when they're just learning to drive, or just seeing if they even want to go on the road.
Mm-hmm.
One step at a time. I think I love the event analogy you gave, because the first time you run an event, why not just put a buy now button and see what happens? See how many people you get. You don't need like this complex event system, and pre-sell some tickets to make sure before you book the venue and everything. It's one step at a time.
Yeah, I heard a story too of a guy, a friend of mine. He was creating it was a SaaS app, software as a service, and he was, in the beginning, he actually wanted to offer free trials. I don't think I mentioned that, but Stripe also has free trial subscriptions that you can do. But anyway, in his case, he didn't even get that far. He had people sign up 30-day free trial, and he put on, and just to see if people would do it. And so he put on it, once people started signing up, he put on his calendar, 3 days before the 30-day trial ends, I need to get a billing system in place.
Yeah.
So he didn't even bother signing up for Stripe or anything until he knew that he had a few people that were in the trial, if that makes sense. So anyway, yeah, there's a bunch of use cases there, and I want to mention too, there's even a few more. So we've had people, you can create just a temporary checkout page, like maybe you don't even want to link it on your site, but it's one that you're going to email out to a few people, or after you talk to them. So you can create a bunch of payment pages for specific uses and not really expose them to everyone. And then another thing I wanted to mention was, if you're still If you want to do a few automated things at the start, but again, you don't want to spend money on a developer or code it yourself right away. A tool like Zapier, where you can connect Stripe um, and to its events, like if somebody signs up for something, and then you can have it email out, or whatever it is that you want to automate a little bit more.
Yeah, and just to that point, for those of you listening, if you haven't heard of Zapier, I'd encourage you to Google it. But it allows you to connect two different applications or apps to each other and have them do something in a way that they're not naturally connected to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, could you give us some more use cases of what people might do from connecting to Stripe?
Yeah, sure. And actually, so one of the features we have in our roadmap that we haven't built yet is more customized email receipts.
Okay.
And so Stripe, what's nice though, actually, here's another thing Stripe offers is they offer basic receipt emails, and that are pretty good. They look nice and stuff. They're just not real customizable.
Okay.
And so we don't have that in Simple Pay yet. However, we have, and I've have a few posts on this on our blog on how to use Zapier to send out customized email receipts. So again, to avoid building this, either building a email solution yourself or signing up for another service that's too expensive or waiting on us to build it, you can use Zapier to say, hey, I would like to email customers with this information as soon as they buy, and that's triggered from the payment going through on Stripe. So,
Beautiful.
yeah, and you can basically look at any kind of event that Stripe would fire off, and you either connect that to Zapier or some other service to when somebody signs up, or if their subscription, their credit card failed, or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And for those of you listening, I'd encourage you to check out WP Simple Pay. Whenever you set up any kind of e-commerce system, it's always a good idea to test it. My personal preference, I like to do live testing, so I'll often do like a 99% off coupon or whatever. It's always good to test your experience, make sure you connected everything right and all that stuff, and it looks and works and collects what you want it to collect. What do you recommend? What are your getting started? If somebody is listening to this and wants to get started and try out WP Simple Pay, what do you recommend what should they do to start?
Yeah, well, like you said with the testing, I'm with you on that. You eventually want to test a live payment somehow, and I think Stripe, 50 cents is the minimum
Okay.
when you're live. But that being said, you can get pretty far with their
Test mode.
being in test mode on
Yeah.
Stripe. Yeah, and you can do everything you can do. Basically, you can test out everything in test mode, Stripe test mode. We have test mode in the settings in Simple Pay, and yeah, so it would just be basically kind of coming up with a scenario that you want to try out, whether it's selling a subscription or a donation or whatever it is, and just putting it, getting the plugin and putting it on just a WordPress site. It could be a test site if you want. It could also be just a private page if you want on your site, or an unlinked page, and put it in test mode and try it out for a while. Yeah, or a staging site, any of that stuff.
That's awesome. Well, what if someone wants to try out WP Simple Pay? What's the best place to go, or how should they start? What do you recommend for people who want to
Uh,
go in?
Good point. I mean, a lot of the features I talked about are just in our Pro plugin, our premium plugin. So that would be wpsimplepay.com. But there, if you want to just try the Stripe checkout overlay features, it's basically just a buy button with those kind of a few options there that come up on the overlay. You can just look up Stripe payments in your plugins in your WordPress site and grab the the free version just to get started if you want. And later on, if you need to upgrade or need to do a few more things, you already have your Stripe account and Stripe keys and all that set up already. So it's pretty seamless to move to the Pro plugin that way.
That's awesome. Well, for those of you out there listening, if you have a new course idea or you want to, try to upsell or cross sell some other products, I would encourage you to check out WP Simple Pay. Throw up a page, put that button on there, and hook it up to your Stripe account, and see what happens. It's validating your ideas and just making a clean, simple checkout experience when that makes sense is so powerful. So thanks for making the plugin, Phil. For those of you out there, head on over to wpsimplepay.com. Where else can people connect with you on the interwebs?
Yeah, sure. I'm on Twitter a little bit here and there, at Phil Derksen, and I blog occasionally at philderksen.com. And yeah, those are the spots you can find me.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
Definitely. Thanks a lot, Chris. It's been fun.